Cowes on the Isle of Wight. It's here for 7 days each year that the best yachts and yachtsmen get together to celebrate Cowes Week. It's also home to a famous family of photographers, known to everyone as Beken of Cowes. Ken Beken is the latest generation of the family to take his camera out onto the Solent to grab these photographs that are seen round the world. Photographs that capture the colour, grace and excitement of yachting, the speed of the powerboats, and the nostalgic sight of an old steam launch. It was in 1888 that Edward Beken decided to set himself up as chemist and druggist on Cowes. The business prospered, and soon the grand title, by appointment to Her Majesty Queen Victoria, Chemists, was granted. Edward's elder son Frank qualified as a chemist and followed his father into the business. It was Frank who became seriously interested in photography. This portrait of the royal family at Osborne House was one of his first commissions, and throughout his life he recorded the unique association of royalty with the Isle of Wight. But Frank Beken's great love was of the sea and the magnificent yachts and ships that sailed on the Solent. His photographs now fill the shelves of the Beken shop, where his son Keith still keeps an eye on the family business.
My grandfather was just an amateur in a very small way, but my father was the one who conceived the whole thing anyhow. He was in his pharmacy just next door here, and he looked out of the window. They had a big picture window in the pharmacy, which looked out over the Solent in Cowes. And there were these beautiful great yachts of 100 tons, 150 tons, and 100 foot. All beautifully designed, and he felt that he should record them and record them forever.
But when he started, I mean, this was what, before First World War, photography itself was in its infancy. Surely he was pioneering very new ground, wasn't he?
He was pioneering new ground, and more so because there weren't the cameras available to be able to cover it. So not only did he have to think of his camera, but he had to think of how to go to sea and photographing at the same time. He thought that as the speed of the shutter, whatever shutter he was going to use, wouldn't be really fast enough to get a nice detailed picture. He would have to try and cut down his own movement of his boat to compensate. And so, after a lot of thought and one thing and another, he conceived of the idea of firing the shutter of his camera, which he was going to build or get built, or haven't built, with a ball and tube, rather like a studio camera where the ball is held in the hand. As the camera was going to be big and heavy, he'd have to use both hands to hold the camera, therefore he wouldn't be able to fire the ball. So he conceived of the idea of putting the ball into his mouth and biting it.
And using such a crude system, Frank Beken took photographs that have become part of maritime history.
Titanic, of course, he photographed. I think he possibly has the last, or we have them now, of course, the last photographs of the Titanic before, when she left here. This is not my father's camera, but it is one very, very similar. And I'll show you how it worked, in effect. You had a slide, just like a studio camera. And it's got a glass plate inside here.
What's the format of that?
8 by 6 inches. There are two glass plates in there. You put that back in there, and you draw the slide, like that. Then you pick the camera up, and it's heavy, and you need both hands, and you put that in your mouth, like that, and you fire the shutter.
And you see everything upside down and back to front?
You see, of course, yes, like a typical photographer. One interesting thing about it is this is the distance, because normally in a camera you have 6 foot, 10 foot, 20 foot, 60 feet, infinity. But here we have on a scale marked dinghies, motor cruisers, and big yachts, liners, in effect. Because in those days we took almost many liners as we did yachts.
It's the old photographs that account for much of today's business, and most of us who buy old photographs or see them published in magazines expect them to be sepia-toned. It seems right somehow. But of course, they're not originally printed that way.
When the prints come out of the darkroom, they're quite a normal black and white print. We'll now put them into a photographic bleach chemical, which will bleach out the image and remove the silver. This process will take round about 15-20 seconds or so.
Now, why, in fact, are you doing sepia tinting? I mean, is there much of a demand for it?
Firstly, it does make the print permanent. We can quite happily guarantee this print now for 100 years against any fading. Secondly, when it's framed and hung on somebody's wall, it does suit furniture and decor. The soft, round tint seems to make it from what would be a snapshot into a real portrait. It's something we're always proud of. You can see now that the toning is working. The print is being bleached out. The silver's being removed. It won't take many more seconds before we can put it into the washing tank.
What is this solution again that you've got it in now?
It's a photographic bleach.
Why did they do all the sepia tinting in the old days, by the way? Because, I mean, I like it, I think it's beautiful, but was there any particular reason why
I
they
think
started
mainly
off doing
for the
it?
decorative purpose. It was a nice, gentle, subtle tone, better than the hard black and white, and for its permanent keeping qualities.
There were no technical reasons for it originally?
No, not really. It was found to be the better colour. They experimented with copper tones, blue tones, green tones, but the sepia tone was the most pleasing. Right, this print is now ready.
Yes, that's almost gone. It's hard to believe that's going
Yes,
to
you
come
can
back up
hardly
again,
see
isn't
anything
it?
there at all. We
So
wash
that goes
it
in for a wash.
here for around about 20 minutes to half an hour to remove the bleaching chemicals.
And after that, it goes into what?
After that, we put it in sodium sulfide, which will effectively replace the silver with a dye that is the permanent process. And there we see the final sepia toning come through.
But whether or not sepia toning ever becomes unfashionable, Frank Beken's novel way of making enlargements certainly has.
He evolved the idea that just as you use natural sunlight for taking your photographs, why shouldn't it be adapted to making enlargements in the darkroom? So he conceived the idea of fitting up a big pair of bellows and into which the glass slide went. And then he fixed this bellows, complete with the glass negative, into a window at the top of his house there, about 3 floors high. And on a bright sunny day, you had a tremendous amount of light coming through this glass negative, being projected onto a screen.
Knowing the English weather, didn't that limit him for the number of days he could make enlargements, though?
No, because in those days, you didn't receive all that number of orders, so you could virtually wait for the fine day in the week and then complete all those orders in that one day. A big enlargement of, say, about 4 foot square would only take about 15 seconds exposure. So you could get through quite a lot in say, an hour of good sunlight, and the reflection from the sea and the sky was terrific. 15 seconds is a marvellously short time to make an enlargement of that size, and most modern enlargers would take more than that.
Frank Beken started taking photographs on the Solent from a 14-foot dinghy with a friend to man the oars. But eventually he managed to get a 17-foot motor launch, capable of 8 knots. Just enough speed to get out of the way of a 30-knot warship or a 400-ton yacht under full sail. Today, Ken Beken uses a 21-foot launch capable of 30 knots. It's his own mobile camera platform. He uses no boatman, preferring to handle the boat himself. Controlling the boat and taking photographs calls for skills that can only be achieved by years of practice. Not many of us have taken photographs from a rolling boat and got the horizon level, but Ken never seems to have that problem.
You really have to get used to holding the camera steady, but using your whole body as a gimbal. It starts right in your toes and moves through your ankles, through your knees, through your hips, to the trunk of your body, and through to the camera. So when you're holding the camera up to your eye, you're moving up and down, backwards and forwards, in a very fluid movement. Your whole body becomes a working gimbal.
Now, what sort of focusing distance would your father have put on this one? Would he have had a dinghy or a liner on it?
Well, I think he would have called it a liner. It's a pretty vast object. I think you can't really call it a ship.
Oh,
But,
that height, you know, does that present you with any problems particularly?
It does when you're trying to frame it up. We must think of the horizontal or upright formats, and this vessel is very much square. I think if she had a sail up, she'd be doing about 8 knots faster than she could under power.
That could actually turn out to be quite a historic picture, couldn't it?
Yes, we'll file it away in maybe 10, 15, 20 years' time. Somebody will want a picture of it, and we'll look in the files for barges, rescue barges, maintenance, and we'll dig it up. We'll use our cross-reference because I may not remember it in that length of time, but it'll be there to use.
You might even get the national press ringing you up, perhaps, and asking you for it.
I hope so. If they don't ring us, we'll certainly phone them and say, hey, look, we've got the first pictures of the barge that went out to raise the Mary Rose.
Ken's photographs are taken by a single-lens reflex camera, using 2¼ inch square format. And he's able to use something that his grandfather never had: colour. It was Ken's father who took the first Beken photograph in colour. And in true Beken fashion, he made the camera himself.
This one I built, which is 5 inches by 4 in size. It looks a bit more modern, although it looks a bit like a lunar probe, I must admit. It had an original finder like the old camera, looked through like that, and it had a ball and tube as before with the old camera. And the focusing is on a big thread like that. In fact, it's very simple, and it could be taken in 2 or 3 pieces. So when I went over to the States, I could put them in my raincoat, and that was it.
That's a bit like a plumbing pipe, that.
Well, it's incredible, isn't it? But the first photograph I took was one of the big liners. Just one film I took, rushed back, got it processed, and it was marvellous. It was a flat, calm day, but the liner company bought it just like that. So I was happy.
Today, Ken Beken's photographs are all taken on roll film, and he's standardised on one colour film one black and white film and one camera.
We have a requirement for more and more transparencies, more and more photographs. So we had to adapt with the changing trends and go for a camera that was a little more modern and easier to use. We chose the Hasselblad. There were a number of other cameras on the market, but we didn't want to go down to 35mm. The negative was just too small for our use. We sometimes have to make enlargements 10 or 12 feet square, so we found that 6 by 6 centimetre or 2 1/4 square was about as far as we could possibly go with an original negative. The Hasselblad is a Swedish camera using German lenses, and it takes 12 exposures in one magazine back, and we can go out all day with just one box of film and come home with what we think are pretty good transparencies.
I guess it must have to be very robust, though.
It is. A camera life, I suppose, is about 10 years before we eventually use it for spares. And after a good day's photography, we have to dismantle it as far as we can go and wash off all the salt and corrosion that normally attacks cameras.
Standard lens?
Standard lens, yes. We don't always use telephotos. Telephotos are used very, very occasionally when we need to get some close-up deck action or to bring a boat closer if we can't possibly get to the scene of the action in time. And we use our launch as some sort of focus. We set the camera on, say, 75 feet, which covers most of the big yachts, and then use the launch to come in close and then move away. And we feel that we now have a reputation amongst yachtsmen that we don't intentionally upset them, and we're usually well received when we come to photograph a yacht. We always use a 500th of a second. That's the fastest speed that we can get from the Hasselblad. And we're using standard films. We use one type of colour film, one type of black and white film, and we know our exposure. We don't always use an exposure meter. We tend to go out and wake up in the morning and say, today is an F8 day.
You feel it through the seat of your pants again?
Well, through your eye, let's put it like that.
Look, Ken, I know you do a lot of archive stuff. Do you find that there is problem in maintaining colour quality over long periods of time?
Yes, certainly. The transparency stock that we took back in 1950s, starting to turn magenta now, but the modern Kodak films have better keeping qualities. And much as I'd like to keep all my transparencies in a concrete bunker that's kept cool and dry, funds, I'm afraid, won't run to that, and it's kept in a busy working office, but kept in the dark, brought out as little as possible, and when we're enlarging out the photographs, we use minimum of lighting and try and instill on any reproduction house or publicity agency that the transparencies that we send are all originals, and would they please be careful of them.
Yes, I bet. I must say, this office looks very much as though it's worked in. Now, one thing that strikes me very much, looking around, there is a photograph up there, and I know you've got a number of copies of it. That was taken, I believe, even before your father was born. And yet it seems to my inexperienced eye that that is as beautiful as a lot of the modern photographs. Now, it almost implies that the technology that's gone on in the last 50 years has been almost immaterial to you, and you're relying on particular skills for your photography. Is that right?
Yes, we've been accused of being a little old-fashioned. Well, it's not quite true, but the materials we use have been proved and tested, and we're loath to go on to anything that's just a bit too modern. This picture was taken in 1911. It's one of our favourites, certainly. And my grandfather took that. Just happened to be one day in his little dinghy, and along came this beautiful schooner, Suzanne. But it's on black and white monochrome. The negative will last virtually forever, except if somebody drops the glass plate, which hasn't happened yet. Being a marine photographer, we have to know our subject. I do sailing myself, my father and grandfather before me. So we're very much concerned that we know exactly what we're shooting at, and if there's anything about a boat that we don't like, and given the opportunity, we'll gently slide up to the skipper and say, look, would you mind pulling in that rope? We do have one or two problems in photographing sometimes. Only recently I was covering Antigua Yachting Race Week, and we chartered a little light aeroplane which developed an engine fault about a mile offshore, and we had to make an emergency landing in what turned out to be a ploughed field, and we came down rather quicker than we went up, and it hasn't put me off flying, but I'm a little wary now of going up in light aircraft. I think yachting is a lot more safer.
Very close, right down on the deck.
But when it comes to photographing high-speed powerboats, a helicopter is the only camera platform that will work.
We'll catch them maybe off St Catherine's when they're doing a bit of porpoising and leaping about, I should think.
Yeah, do a bit of
I'll jump in.
And then I'll come the other side.
You know me, if I can get outside the airplane, I will.
And me.
Initially, when I'm photographing from a helicopter, you have to get over the shock of takeoff, the adrenaline pumping around you, and the sheer excitement of what you're photographing. In a boat, the powerboats shoot past you at 80 miles an hour. In a helicopter, you can chase them at that speed. You get really close up. Sometimes we get splashed from the wash of the powerboat. Vibration you've got to look out for. I would say that we probably have to throw away about 4 pictures in every 12 that we take because of the vibration of the rotor blades, whereas on a boat we're used to absorbing most of the shock through our body, but in a helicopter you're strapped in tight. Nobody wishes to fall out of a helicopter on top of a powerboat, so you do have to absorb an awful lot of shock initially. Telephoto lenses, I think, are out because of the vibration of the helicopter. Occasionally we get bothered with a bit of rain, a bit of spray, but it's really a much more acceptable platform to photograph these high-speed craft from. Excellent, Mike, excellent. Couldn't have asked for better weather.
And it'll be 3 years before Ken recoups the cost of taking these photographs. The world of the professional photographer has changed much since Frank Beken bobbed about on the Solent, taking photographs when he could take time off from being a chemist.
And this is your main sort of retail cum gallery outlet. No sign of the chemists anymore.
No, we moved over from the chemist premises about 12, 15 years ago. And my father was the last fully fledged chemist, but I think he realised that there was no way we could run 2 businesses at once. It takes up too much of our time these days photographing out on the water, and we're travelling an awful lot more these days. We're going to Antigua, America, South America, Africa, even to Russia to get the photographs that we want. And there's no way that we could have a resident chemist on the premises all the time.
You know, looking around it all, you've obviously diversified an awful lot since your grandfather's day, who I believe first started just taking records, didn't he? What are the areas you've gone into now?
Well, grandfather started off using simple black and white monochrome material. Now we're able to use the very latest colour films, which has allowed us to produce such things as the calendars, for instance, the yachting calendar, tall ship calendar, powerboats, windsurfing. Everything now is within our grasp, and we can afford to sell a print to a schoolboy who has only a few pence, while still able to sell a Cibachrome hand-printed enlargement for a number of pounds.
Does it all appeal to you to the same extent, or if you had a choice, would you single out one area of it?
That's very, very difficult. I get a tremendous amount of enjoyment photographing the vessels, a tremendous amount of satisfaction just having photographed those vessels, But unfortunately, after that, I now have to sell the photographs, and it's something that I still have to get to grips with. I'd be more than happy just taking the prints, putting them away, and using them for archival purposes. But we have to be commercial. We have, unfortunately, to try and make a profit to allow us to photograph what we want to do. Take the powerboats, for instance. It costs us a small fortune renting helicopters to photograph these boats at high speed. The yachting, we have our own launch, covering expenses there. And the tall ships, we travel all over the world now to such places as Hawaii, South America, North America, all over Europe, chasing these tall ships, which are few and far between.
You talked about the tall ships. Obviously, in the past, you photographed the big liners, which have now gone. You're now going all over the world. Which way, if anything, do you see the business going in the future?
Heavily accented towards the reproduction side, the books, the magazines, the newspapers, encyclopedias that are constantly writing to us and phoning us up saying, please send a selection of such subjects as the tall ships or an event, yachting regatta. And I can see that we're going to be selling fewer and fewer to individual owners and yacht racing skippers and crew, and more towards publicity houses, agencies and libraries.
Whatever the demand for marine photographs, Ken is ready to get that shot. He has to, if the family business is to keep up with the times and maintain its reputation. There's no way Ken could work in a studio. His life is dedicated to the sea and the challenge of that next photograph.
There's always something around the corner that's going to be better, I think. I haven't taken my favourite photograph yet. Each one of us thinks that tomorrow will be another day.